How bad does inflation lie ahead? It looks pretty bad, according to a billionaire supermarket CEO, the poor situation in Southern California, and a power shortage in China.
San Francisco will see a recall of 3 school board directors, attracting national attention.
M.I.T. disinvited a geophysicist from speaking on its campus for its position on affirmative action. In the meantime, Princeton picked up the lecturer and received an overflowing of audience of 8,000.
In the feature story of today, former Secretary of State Pompeo explained the 3 pillars of Trump administrations to deal with the CCP.
Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
And I'm Kathy Zhang.
Okay, so let's quite a few news for you today, and it's all quite, I think, attention-catching. Some are bad news, unfortunately, and some are, I would say, good news. All right, so the first piece. A CEO, a billionaire supermarket owner of a Gristetas, and it's a little tricky, okay. Gristetas, and the Anglo-Latino food. For you guys that near this supermarket, you may know the name, okay? And its CEO, his name is John Casimetitas, all right? He said, about the inflation, I see over 10% price increase in the next 60 days. Guys, it's bad enough already. And he see the trend will not drop anytime soon, all right? What he also sees is that the food giants such as Nabisco, the Pepsi-Cola and Coca-Cola will rise price on their product first.
So the rising price in general foods and the supply chain bottleneck are currently plaguing the supermarket like he's around the United States. A significant backlog of shipping containers is currently being processed at 2 major California ports. It is snaring delivery of food and other goods.
So where does the supply crunch come from? All right. So first is the energy shortage in the Asian Pacific and Europe. The second is the COVID-19 related concerns. The third is the lockdowns. And the fourth is the vaccine mandates. And in September, the consumer price has gone up 5.4% year over year. If you think that's too high, it's not the hike that meets your eyes every day. As a matter of fact, gas price increased by 42% year over year. And the used car price increased by 24%. And the egg and the meat and the poultry and the fish that you eat every day cost 11% more even year over year.
So let's take a look at the backlog of the containers. On the sea of the coast of Los Angeles and Long Beach, 157 container ships are waiting there for days. With 200,000 containers on these ships, they are blocking the smooth running of the supply chain of the United States. The port authorities are busy cutting down the amount of cargo waiting to be offloaded from the ships.
In the meantime, the train station, the railway station, okay, the railway company, Union Pacific Railway, the second largest railroad operator in the United States, are serving the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach with 24/7 service, so non-stop running.
Yeah. And there are people questioning why they cannot just reroute some of them to the Oakland port in Northern California. But the White House said that the serious progress is being made. Chris Beer, the CEO of the American Trucking Association, said that one further problem is they face a shortage of 80,000 truck drivers. Spears said that it doesn't matter if it is a port in Los Angeles or Long Beach or the last mile of delivery from a train to a warehouse in Wichita. You are going to have a driver and a truck move that freight.
Yeah, there's a worry that the supply chain problem may impact upon the Christmas time good supply, which this country hasn't seen for a long time. And one might ask, so what is the reason for such a port backlog? And Daniel Inman, a spokesperson for the National Retail Foundation, said Assembly Bill 5, which is a California Assembly Bill, okay, triggered a wave of owner-operators, operator truckers, and trucking fleets to stop doing business in California. That may be part of the issue. She does stress that it is not the only issue. And what is this Assembly Bill 5?
Right. The AB 5 is a law in California that seriously restricts the room that an employer can hire a contractor. A person is automatically an employee unless the employer meets several rather strict conditions.
Well, that's the characteristic of California here. Let's move on to look at the situation in China. Okay, this is another facet of the supply chain problem. More than half of China's provinces has issued local power restrictions since September, which is not too far. Okay, it's just like 1 month ago. That would cut off, mind this, 1/3 of the country's production capacity, according to a Chinese economist. And since about 40% of the retail goods come from China in the U.S., price may go up by 10 to 15% over the Christmas season on the goods imported from China. And also the current panic buying of both consumers and retailers are not helping either.
So what are the goods that are affected the most by the China's power supply shortage? So, for example, textiles, toys, stationaries, and office supplies, computers, computer accessories, and machinery parts.
All right, let's move on to what's happening to the deep blue San Francisco. You think San Francisco is all liberal. Now they are trying to recall some liberal school board districts. So what's going on there, Kathy?
That's right. So 3 members of the San Francisco Unified School District Board of Education, including the president and the vice president, are officially facing recall election. The San Francisco Department of Elections certified the petition this Monday, which is October 18th, and set the special election on February 15th, 2022. So actually, this recall has attracted nationwide attention and is regarded as the most noteworthy attempt to remove school officials since 1959, when voters in Little Rock, Arkansas recalled 3 segregationist school board members. So also it's noteworthy why these 3 members are recalled. According to the parents, because they put politics ahead of students. So what does that mean?
Let's look at the first one, okay, handling of the pandemic. Instead of focusing on the reopening schools for kids, the board approved renaming 44 school names, including Jefferson, Lincoln, and Lowell, and backfired, and that got backfired, and finally rescinded that initiative.
Right. So the second reason that the parents wanted to recall the 3 school board members because they made a decision to get rid of the merit-based admission policy. Instead, they use lottery system at a very prestigious public high school in the school district, which was mentioned before. They tried to rename the school as well, Lowell High School. It is one of the actually eldest public school in the West Coast, and it's ranked number 1 in the school district, number 7 in California, and nationwide it was ranked number 78th. So it's a very good school. Over 80% of the enrollments are minority, but Lowell has been targeted because of most of the students have been Asian Americans. In the 1980s, it started to implement a race-based admission policy, trying to create a so-called more equal race student bodies. But as the demographic changes in the city, Asian students had to actually score higher in order to get into the school. So in the 1990s, Chinese American alumni of the school initiated a lawsuit which was successful, so that they got rid of that race-based policy. Then in October last year, the school board members voted to approve and end the merit-based admission policy and they used the lottery system. Furthermore, they just made it permanent in February this year. So what's the reason to make it permanent? The board cited the school's lack of diversity and pervasive systematic racism in the school.
Well, okay, so to analyze what's indeed the reason for such recall, LA Times actually wrote an editorial claiming that the recall is a punishment for the board's past decisions. But the recall campaign said it's a way to ensure sound management of a district because it is currently facing $116 million budget deficit for the 22 to 23 school year.
Yeah, so why this school board recall is so noteworthy? First of all, the vote will be the first ballot recall of a San Francisco official in nearly 40 years. Since the last time is the then Mayor Dianne Feinstein she defeated a recall. And the second of all, the high threshold of the signatures needed by this recall petition. According to San Francisco city law, the recall proponents have to gather signatures equal to 10% of the city's registered voters. But instead of the required over 51,000 signatures, the recall campaign actually gathered over 80,000 signatures for each of the recalled board members.
So one recall expert said that's enormous amount of signatures needed and collected. Usually with such overwhelming reaction from the voters, the recall election would have a chance of 75 to 80% success rate.
And another aspect it's really noteworthy is that so many parents and the voters are disapproval of the board's basically cancel culture themed policies such as renaming school and getting rid of the merit-based admission policies. As a matter of fact, total 7 board members, 3 are recalled, will be under recall election. It is only because the other 4 members were elected last November and therefore are not eligible to be recalled based on city election rules.
So otherwise, they could be all gone. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's quite a liberal, school board. If any of the 3 board members recalled on February 15th, for next year, San Francisco mayor would appoint their replacement, okay? And the founders of the recall campaign said that they plan to create a screening process of candidates for Mayor London Breed to consider.
Yeah, but how that could go with the mayor, we don't know yet. So let's stay tuned.
Okay, let's look at the third piece of news, another major episode, all right? And Dr. Dario Abbott, he's a geophysics professor from the University of Chicago, was supposed to speak at M.I.T. tomorrow, Thursday, on a topic called climate and the potential for life on other planets. All right. However, he was disinvited after a group of activists petitioned M.I.T. early this month for his position on affirmative actions, which actually was not related to the topic of his speech at M.I.T. And Dr. Abbott, who is white, has asserted that the affirmative action and the diversity programs treat people as members of a group rather than as individuals repeating the mistake that made possible the atrocities in the 20th century. He said he favored a diverse pool of applicants selected on merit. All right, and such words angered certain people who view he represent a infuriating and inappropriate and oppressive choice. As the petition got heated, MIT disinvited him. Soon after, Princeton University invited him over to do a virtual lecture on the same topic on the same day. And a similar virtual lecture like that typically attracted 500 to 600 registrants. However, Princeton got a big surprise. Nearly 80,000 people registered, which forced Princeton University to urgently increase the conference Zoom limit multiple times to accommodate the request for attending. The debate over whether the university would cancel unwelcome speech would for sure remain. MIT tried 2 times after their disinvitation to appease its people on the campus about the choice that he made, while the Academic Freedom Alliance sharply criticized MIT for caving into the cancel culture. This is their statement, a little long, but I think it's worth reading it. Okay, their statement says this: it is true that the universities are sometimes put into a difficult situation of upholding their value of academic freedom and open inquiry when particular instances of a speech become controversial and the universities are being pressured to suppress speech. Identifying the correct principle and the university's proper responsibility in such circumstances is not difficult, however. The letter went on to say the university's duty is clear. Once the university has extended an invitation to a speaker to speak to members of the campus community, the university must not rescind that invitation because some object that the speaker or ideas that the speaker has expressed are unacceptable. The statement finally said the institution seems to have lost sight of that very basic principle in this case, and in doing so has subverted its own institutional mission to foster the free exchange of ideas. Yeah, so what do you think?
Yeah, and as a side note, the wife of Dr. Abbott, actually, she's originally from Ukraine.
Ukraine. Okay.
Yeah. And so Dr. Abbott said that his wife, once upon hearing the news that her husband's lecture was canceled, she told him, quote, that it's like from, happening from the Soviet Union, that she learned from her parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds so familiar for people like us. It's news here, but it's never news in a socialist country. However, this is really something that we need to watch out for. But for the what happened in San Francisco and also what happened at Princeton, there's some
probably say something, right?
Yeah, there's some silver lining, and how much people can forbear over there. All right, so next thing we're gonna move on to the Safe Chat and talk about the next piece of news, which is former Secretary of the State Mike Pompeo, what he said in San Francisco last weekend. All right, let's move on over there. Okay, in the meantime, please click like. We were, taken offline, forced offline for about 1 week. Now we're back, so please still press like and, and a subscription, and so that stay with us. Okay, now let's, with no further ado, let's move on to the Safe Chat, please. Our staff, please post the link there, and if you have not installed, please do so, and please pass this, news to other people.